How many students out here, how many high school students are there out here? Parents should not be raising their hands. How many students are younger than high school age? Great. How many people are beyond high school age but also interested in college? Okay, terrific. Well, this is what I'm going to talk about is the how, the what, the why about college generally. So how to prepare for it, what's important. Because there's a lot of swirling anxiety out there. So I'm going to hope to talk about that. So first of all, what is the value of college? What is the point of college? A former professor of mine, Woody Flowers, who was actually here yesterday, I don't know if he's here today or not, but he likes to talk about the difference in education between training and education, where training is the content. You can learn Newton's laws of physics, and what education is about is how to apply those in creative and new ways. To learn how to do that. And the best way to do that is by bringing people together. So college is a place where students come together and learn from each other. They learn from faculty members. Mentorship, apprenticeship. This is the value of coming to college. Very different than other kinds of experiences online where you might learn some content. Okay, so college. If you haven't noticed, there is a bit of a frenzy about getting into college these days. All right. What drives this? Well, if you read the newspaper at all, you might think that it is impossible to get into college, right? At least if you read these papers, they talk about how hard it is to be an applicant these days. And one of the things that has fueled this is the fact that there are many, many more students going to college than ever before. This is a 150-year timeline, but you can see over the last 50 years, many, many, many more students are going to college. If you look at the MIT applicant pool, for example, this is the number of applicants, and the number of enrolled students has stayed relatively stable. So this, of course, is where the anxiety comes from. By the way, the drivers of this, Netscape came in right around here. The Internet's actually had quite an effect. College used to be a place where you'd go to school right near where you lived, and it's become a much more national and international search for colleges. There's more flow towards a few schools. So Netscape here, and we ramped up our social media right in here. So the Internet actually has played some role in sorting students. Okay, but first thing to do here is relax, because as the number of students has increased, so has the number of colleges. And the reality is, there is a college for everyone. So you are going to get into college. This is from a survey by our National College Admissions Organization. It looks at colleges, and basically what it says is that more than 80% of colleges admit most of their applicants. So the first thing we need to do is relax and understand, yes, MIT maybe only still enrolls 1,100 students per year, but there are many, many more places that enroll many, many more students, and every student who wants to go to college has an option here. Okay, so relax. Okay, so if that's true, what do we do? What do you do? How do you get into college at all? How do you prepare best for that? How do you spend your time? There are a whole range of things that you can do to spend your time. By the way, when I put this in there, I'd like, actually, my daughters who are here, I'd like them to close their ears for a moment. But this actually is important. Some downtime to allow the quality of all the other things you might do to shine. One of the biggest questions I get, though, is, all right, these are all the different things I can do. What should I do? And ultimately, that is a relatively easy question to answer. You can't read that. There'll be plenty of time for playing after you get into college. And I know many, many households feel that way. But the reality is, okay, let's look at what colleges want to try to answer that question. So first of all, here's a list of all different things that might be important to colleges, and colleges were asked this question: what do you value? So a couple of things of interest. First of all, grades do matter, but they don't matter everywhere, and there is more to it that's important. Okay, so I want to unpack, I want to dive into that a little bit. What colleges really want are students who can think as opposed to memorize. Now this is a challenge for our high schools and for high school students, because oftentimes there is a push for students to load up on classes, to take more and more and more. And if you're going to do that, you have no ability to actually think. All you can do is try to learn the material. And it's not the best way to learn how to think. So yeah, and I will also say, I know that many high schools are on this treadmill. It's a very hard treadmill to get off of. But it's very important, because colleges, and all of my colleagues that I talk to, they want students who are able to sit back and think about problems in new and creative ways. They don't just want students who can come up with an answer to a question that's asked where they can just plug the numbers into a formula. That's not really what we want, and in fact, it's not what society needs. And yet, students feel a lot of pressure just to take so much content that that's all they have time for, is to learn how to plug in numbers into a formula. And I think that's a problem we have to address. But for our part, we are much happier to admit students who have backed down off of this quantity treadmill to allow more time and space for quality. Very important, and we do that. All right, what else? We want students, therefore, who are active and engaged, not just going from one activity to the next without thinking why. We want students who are really engaged and active in the things that they do. We do like students who challenge themselves, in fact, who are not afraid to fail. And I see a lot of that also when I talk to applicants. They're afraid to do things if they might not succeed at them. Because how is that going to look? Too much pressure. And that's a problem. But think about when you're building something, you're designing something. It's not going to work the first time. Or it shouldn't work the first time if you're actually trying to do something hard and meaningful. And I think people who make things know that, but our high schools, again, are not always set up to encourage this. But we do like students who are willing to take some risks. And of course, we want students ultimately who are seeking an education, meaning who are not just interested in the content. They're not just interested in learning the formulas, but they want to engage with each other, they want to engage with faculty, they want to participate in the life of our university. So we look for clues. I'm happy to give you innovative thinking. What are the guidelines? Too often this is a problem, right? Students, all right, what are the rules? I can just do what you ask. And again, we want students who can think a little bit more broadly. All right, so what does all that mean? Well, in a real nutshell, it means do what you love and have fun. That's, in the end, this is what's important. The Maker Faire, you know, it's been, I think, just an incredible experience going around and talking with people who are doing really incredible things. And it's really clear to me that the people who are here and around here love what they're doing and do some pretty awesome things. Because that's how you ultimately do incredible things, is by really loving what you're doing. And if you're doing things because you think you have to, you have to question that. We want you to have fun as long as it's fun that enhances a college admission application. All right, so that's a joke. All right, so let me talk about some things that MIT students do, just because oftentimes I hear from prospective students who are thinking about MIT, I'm afraid that students just study all the time and it's not going to be any fun And I guess it depends on what you find fun, but here's just some examples of what MIT students do. We make ice cream with liquid nitrogen, which is actually much better than the kind you get in the supermarket. Much creamier because the cream freezes a lot faster. So we put a TARDIS up on top of one of the buildings. And yes, we do have lazy people who built a motorized couch to get to class. One of my favorite was the giant Tetris. So this is the kind of stuff that we love, that our students love to do. I mean, yes, they take classes and all of that, but this is the kind of stuff they love to do. And our students are there having fun. So this is the kind of stuff, if this is the kind of stuff you enjoy, that's really terrific. One of the things that you can do is tell us about this stuff. There was a slide a while ago where I had wasting time on there. Some people think of this kinds of stuff as wasting time, but we don't. We think that's really great. So on our application, we ask students to send in, if you have inventions, robots, and all this stuff, because we want to see it. So here's a tip for you, especially those of you who are younger and on your way up, but even if you're not, the stuff that you like to do, to the extent that you can document it, number one, to help others, certainly, that's what this whole community is all about, but we'd like to see what you're doing. So it's a good idea to try to document that. So think about this whole college process as a way to think about, okay, what gets you motivated? So we're here at the Maker Faire, which for me has been a supremely motivating 2 days. I love this environment. I get motivated by it. So you want to think about what kinds of environments do you get motivated in? And then think about, you want to spend the next 4 years, or your college years, in that kind of an environment. You've got to put different colleges to the test. But the first step is figuring out the ways that you get motivated. And the reality is not everybody will come to the Maker Faire and get supercharged, but many do. And in fact, if you come to the Maker Faire and yawn, then MIT is probably not a very good place for you either. And we tell students that all the time, go find another place. So that's what you want to figure out for yourself, what excites you. And then you've got to try to explore the range of colleges that are out there. And there are many, many colleges for all kinds of students' interests. One of the best sites that I have found out there that helps students just get started. There are 4,000 colleges in the United States. How do you find one? How do you find many? How do you find a list of them? This is one of the best sites to get started on. There's all kinds of great information. So if you're just trying to think about how do I get started, the College Board has developed a really excellent site, bigfuture.collegeboard.com. It's great. You should go there and it will be a big help to you. You can also, once you get some range of colleges that you're looking at, you can go to their websites and see what they say about themselves and what's important to them. So on the MIT admissions website, we have a whole host of things that we think prepare students well for getting into MIT and succeeding at MIT. So we post up this list of different kinds of enrichment opportunities, and lo and behold, on that list are a whole range of things that many of the students who come to our place do. And a little plug here for our friends at Make Magazine and the Maker Faire, but there are a whole range of others, and because this is the kind of stuff that's important to us. So it will be different at different colleges, and a way to get a feel for that is to go to their websites and take a look at it. So at the end of the day, this is what may seem like a very big, confusing topic. What should I do? What's the best thing to do? What is the secret? What is the secret activity that will get me in to MIT or to some other college, the best advice is one given by one of my favorite TV characters, Jean-Luc. But engage in what you're doing. And I purposely kept this talk short enough that I have some time, which I think I do, to take questions. So how about we do that? Because I think sometimes there are some very, very specific things here. Yes. Okay, right here. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, great question about formal education or not. I think it depends on what your goals are, what you ultimately want to do. And first of all, understand that there are many, many colleges out there who, basically what colleges are places that bring together like-minded individuals to learn. So it's all about learning. So your question may be about what kind of learning is better. Because if you think about a lot of what's considered informal learning is apprenticeship, right? You'll go and learn from other people. So there are different kinds of colleges out there that, so I wouldn't characterize it as an either or. There may just be different. Now, for a place like MIT, you have to understand that we have a curriculum that is very specific, and if you don't have the same kind of traditional background coming in, you either will have to get that. In other words, you're going to have to be ready to take calculus and physics and chemistry. And if you're not, then you need to either get that before coming in, or that's not the right path. But that's just one example, and there are many. The hard part, of course, is that there are many. So sometimes there's a bit of paralysis because there are so many choices out there. But I don't think it's an either-or situation. Basically, really all colleges are places where people come together to learn together and from others. And of course, at the end of it, you get a certificate, but how valuable is that? I would say no more valuable than the learning that actually took place. And so I wouldn't worry so much about that diploma or certificate as much as the learning that took place. So, yes. Yeah.
From experience from my friends who are applying to college, the most stressful matter would be test scores.
Test scores, aha.
In your personal opinion, and not for MIT requirements, how important do you think test scores are?
So test scores has been one of those things that have taken on quite a life. And I think for the most part, people attribute too much value on test scores than they really deserve. Because it's not, first of all, it's not entirely clear what they're measuring. There are some predictive elements from those tests with some colleges. There's been a very big move. Many colleges out there have made testing optional, meaning that there are colleges who you don't have to report any tests to apply to. And now that's not true for MIT, but many, many schools like that. Again, it's this great diversity of universities out there. So the reality is, I think for tests like anything else, you do the best you can on them, but they are neither a ticket nor should they be a barrier for you to accomplish your goals. The key is what path you ultimately take to accomplish your goals might change based on what happens with those tests, but they're not a barrier in any way, shape, or form. And they tend to take on a life of their own, and students tend to attribute more importance to them than they should. So, yes?
On the chart that you showed before that showed that the grades are very important for colleges.
Yep.
But sometimes when the grades don't correspond with interest,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time,
Yep. So that's a great question. All the time I get this question, well, I really don't like social studies, so I'm just not going to work hard in that, and I'm going to either fail or get really bad grades and focus on what I really love. And to some extent, I understand that. Unfortunately, generally speaking, in life, there are certain things that we have to do that we don't love doing. Okay? It doesn't mean you put all of your focus and energies there. You still direct them where you really want to. But it also, doing what you love and having fun doesn't mean forgetting about and not doing with some care the things that you don't love, but yet that you still are expected to do. So I would say that you should do the best you can. Whatever you do, you should try to do as well as you can. And if for some reason you're not doing as well in some subjects than others, when you're applying to college, you just simply need to explain it. But as you embark on this going forward, you really ought to try to do as well as you can in whatever it is that you're doing. It doesn't mean you have to put all of your attention and energies, but it means if you're taking this class, you should try to do as well as you can in it. Yes?
A large proportion of your successful applicants spend a lot of time in their last years in high school taking courses that you guys also teach at MIT, AAP courses.
Yes?
It seems to be like a waste of, there's a waste of resource expenditure somewhere.
Yep.
How do we change that so that they do other things that are diverse, different from doing the same things that you might do at MIT?
Yeah, so that's a terrific question. This question that students tend to take a lot of classes in high school, a lot of content material that they're then going to see again in college. And so a couple things about that. Number one, we would rather see students taking less content in high school but learn better. We would rather have that. Now, there are some subjects where students will take these classes in high school and they will place out of them in college. So they haven't doubled up their work. They're just going to go on to the next level in college. There are some subjects that we find that students will take in high school, AP chemistry or AP biology, that to us, we don't think that those students, no matter how well they've done in those classes, have learned what we consider to be introductory level chemistry or biology. So we don't give credit for those, and students have to come and take them again. And it is double work, and it's unfortunate, but that there is a disconnect. So I think you have correctly identified a bit of a disconnect between what colleges really want and need and what high schools are actually offering and doing. Now, to that end, there are dialogues between colleges and high school curriculum. So there's so the AP, the advanced placement, that offers the advanced placement classes. They have an academic group, and they're in fact in the process of redesigning many of their subjects to make it better aligned with what colleges actually are wanting. So there is better alignment. But it is an issue. Yes? Go for it. Uh-oh. Right there. Okay.
That's our last question, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Yes.
Precisely about this issue, my son over here has actually been putting together services to start slaughtering it. I didn't push it for some reason, he just really wanted to do this. And I always figured that by kind of encouraging them to build and learn how to make things, really consuming academics, that if he kept doing that, if MIT was the right place for him, then there would be a mess.
Yep.
My wife is an English major, really very smart. She really thinks about reading about that. She's lined up these tests, she's lined up courses, and my nervousness is that some of that kind of part is starting to get pushed out. How do I convince my wife that
So I can give you the answer to your question, but I have no idea how you're going to convince your wife about that or anything. Is she here, by the way? No. Ah. That makes it all different. Well, so let me just say there's a balance in there. You're both right. How's that? But it is definitely a warning sign, because you do need to, as I was answering to this young man here, you do need to do some things that you don't love, right? That's part of life. And so taking classes are important. Certainly for MIT, the building things are very important, but you're also going to have to take calculus and physics and all of that. So you need to do all of that. But the warning sign, of course, is when you start pushing so hard that the sense of motivation and excitement starts diminishing. That's a big warning sign for me. And I think you've been on the right path all the way, is to really encourage and nurture the stuff that your child loves to do. But you can't forget about all the rest of it also. I mean, because ultimately, as we put things on Mars, you do have to know how to do calculus and physics and all the rest of that in order to do all that. So I think that was serious that that was it. So we're all
I do
time.
think
Anyway,
that,
thank you for your attention.
Yeah.